Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway, evil will invade the world.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. Oh, the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
Blue, you saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Blue moon, you knew just what I was there for. You heard me saying a prayer for.
All right, I'm here with Dustin Mills, and we're here to talk about, I'd say, probably one of the top 2 or 3 most popular movies in 1981. 1981's American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis, starring David Naughton, Jenny Agutter. What is the one actor's name? I can't believe I forgot it. The little guy, Griffin Dunne. And yeah. So this is pretty iconic, very popular werewolf movie. 1981 is riddled with werewolf movies or wolf-oriented movies. I won't say they're all werewolf films, but yeah, let's dive into this. One of the first, I guess, successful, people would say, horror comedies. More horror than comedy, but I disagree with that. People was like, it was the first horror comedy. It's like, no, it fucking wasn't.
No, not at all.
Every Vincent Price movie was a horror comedy. half of them were before. He was in on the joke, you know. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, so I just watched it. Hadn't watched it in probably a couple years, and it's interesting. This was a movie that used to be on Comedy Central a lot when I was a kid. That's how I saw it. So I mostly saw it edited on Comedy Central. And like you said, it's more horror than comedy. I don't feel comfortable calling it a horror comedy because it is just a horror movie that sometimes has funny moments in it. You know what I mean? Like some of the stuff, the only time it's like overtly funny is when is it David, the main character's name?
Yeah. David,
and his buddy's name is
jeez. Griffin Dunne is the actor.
Yeah, Griffin. Anyway, we're old. Anyway, David, when he's talking to the spirits of the people he's killed.
Jack, isn't it Jack?
Jack, it is Jack. When he's talking to Jack and the other spirits, and they're saying funny things like, "You have to understand, I'm not excited to meet you," like those sorts of things, like where they're all like pissed at him because he murdered him. That stuff is overtly funny, and that whole movie theater scene with like the goofy porno they're watching, like that's
see you
funny.
next Tuesday or
see you next Wednesday. So that whole sequence is probably the like most overtly comedic in the whole movie, and the rest of it is, I mean, there's some parts in this that are pretty scary. I think like the scene in the subway still gives me the willies for some reason. There's something about, it's like nightmarish. But yeah, I think I loved it more this time than any other previous watch. I really appreciated how well it's executed this time around.
I've always enjoyed the movie, and over the past few years, I've watched it. I watched it back at the old house, and then the Blu-ray came out. I watched it. Then the 4K came out, and I watched it. And it just gets better every single time. It gets better every single time I see it. But it most definitely does. And right from the very opening of the movie, I was laughing out loud to myself, which is rare when David and Jack are talking. And they're like, she's got a mediocre personality. It's like, there's nothing mediocre about that body. And they bring it back and they repeat it because that's just exactly how friends talk, especially when they're busting each other's balls. Jack and David's chemistry are perfect. They're dead on. And I love that they're arguing about the Moors. He's like, the Moors now, and then Italy next week or something like that. Yeah. And that's just all really great. The first 15, 20 minutes with the slaughtered lamb is just so perfect. It calls out to Universal and Hammer films so wonderfully too.
And the whole sequence leading up to and including the slaughtered lamb, like right up until the werewolf attack at the beginning of the movie, that's like the nail that the rest of the movie has to hang on. And it's so strong that like basically they nailed that, and then the rest of the movie couldn't fail. I think like their relationship is so good. They're funny with each other, and then it's legitimately eerie when they're in the slaughtered lamb, and they ask about the star on the wall, and everyone goes pentagram. Quiet, and the whole discussion of like, or it's a pentangle, not a pentagram. And then the whole discussion after they leave of the barkeep lady is like, we can't just let them go, and they're like, she's like, it's murder, and he's like, then it's murder then, like, the whole world can't know our business, like that whole thing, like small town secret, like just a fucking beautiful setup for the rest of that movie.
Well, it's Hammer 101. A lot of the Hammer Draculas are like that too. Don't go to the castle, or Universal. They don't want to tell you. They don't want to bring it up, but don't go. You could, and a lot of times in one of the Hammers, though, you can't let them leave here. They can stay in my bar and all sorts of. It's like verbatim. I love that Rik Mayall's in there.
Yeah, I noticed him. I noticed him over there.
Yeah, so Rik Mayall's in there, I think, because Landis saw like a live performance of him on stage. The only complaint I've ever had about this movie is Michael Ripper should have been in the Slaughtered Lamb. Michael Ripper is a Hammer actor. He's a character actor who's in like half of the Hammer movies is just a weird character actor in different kind of roles. I really wish they would have got one of the kind of old character actors from the Hammer movies to be in the background. I don't know if it was scheduling conflicts. I mean, the actors they got are great, but it feels like it's kind of a lost little thing. Maybe he wanted to keep it separated because there's not really any actors like that in here. There's not any
it would have been nice to like even like sneak in Christopher Lee in a small part or something, you know?
Yeah.
Instead we get Frank Oz in a cameo, which is like really weird. I don't know why he's there. Very strange.
In the very beginning, like he gets attacked and he runs away. And I always remembered that, him leaving his friend, but he stops and he says, Jack, and he turns around, but then it's too late too.
Yeah, I think it's just instinct. That's the way I took it.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, instinct's like run, and then like when he realizes. During that sequence too, I feel like movies have lost the fine art of exploding a down jacket. You know what I mean? Like when they get attacked, like the down is like coming out of their like
those big puffy jackets. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I feel like there were a lot of action movies back in the day where like you'd get a squib and a puffy jacket, and a bunch of, like feathers would fly out. Yeah, feathers. Cliffhanger is probably nothing but down jackets exploding. I feel like there's a good one in the Dead Zone too, just like feathers. You know, that mix of like blood and feathers is just like a good visual. We should bring that back. We need to bring back down jackets. Yeah,
down jackets. Another thing I really like about that opening is when he's attacked is, I keep forgetting things like that. The down jacket threw me completely off.
Sorry.
No, it's the moors. I love that it takes place on the moors because it's so perfect. You think of the Sherlock Holmes, the Hounds of Baskerville, which is all on the moors and the drowning and everything. It's just another very British, very fucking British. And the fact that they're two Jewish characters is cool too. Landis wrote what he knew. Yeah. And it's so rare to see Jewish characters as the central, but also not hyper focused on everything about them being Jewish. Like you could tell they're Jewish, and they talk a little bit about it. You see what the nightmare sequence with his family. You see the Jewish things on the fireplace and stuff like that.
I didn't even notice that.
Like I think there's not a menorah, but there's the is that what the 8 candles is called? What is the 8 candles?
That's a menorah, yeah.
Yeah, you see that and stuff like that. It's a nice little touch you don't typically see. Because as much as people are always like, I know this sounds like a crazy asshole conspiracy theory. You know, those people are like Jews run Hollywood. It's as much as you say that, there's just really not that many Jewish characters in movies. Like, so I don't know. It's not really. So, but that whole opening is great. And I know a lot of people would complain because David Naughton and Jenny Agutter fall in love pretty quick, but it kind of makes sense because he's fragile and they're both very good looking. They're charming. They're both charming. I could see it happening. I don't feel it unrealistic.
I didn't think it was like impossible, but that was the one part of the movie where I was like, why does she like this guy? It's like, I mean, maybe it's just that I don't know what their age difference is. I almost feel like she should have been that character. Maybe if she was a little older, it would have made more sense, like to like put up with this young guy's, you know, but it felt a little forced that they. But it's not that. But it didn't become unbelievable. Like through their performances, I believe that they like each other. It's just the circumstances of them getting together was kind of like, okay, this is just convenient. But I mean,
of course, you know,
what else can you? There's like nothing else to really complain about in the movie, so I'll give them that. That's fine.
The one thing I would say doesn't make sense logically is when the werewolf's at the end of the alley and she's standing in front of the werewolf, and the sharpshooters shoot the werewolf from the side. But there's no fucking way they could have shot it from the side because they're pointing straight forward. That's just like, and I was just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't. Like, that's nitpicky.
Oh, yeah, who cares? Yeah.
Who gives a shit? I mean, another thing that this movie does wonderfully is, I think it's probably the only one that does it this successfully multiple times, is incorporate songs about the moon into the soundtrack. Blue Moon, Bad Moon Horizon. It's so wonderful. And they use like 2 or 3 different versions of Blue Moon. And at the end, when that comes on, it's such a sad moment. It's genuinely like chills up your back, you know, up your spine.
Jenny Agutter is so good in this. Like she really sells it at the end when she's standing there and like crying as like, you know, and talking to David when he's in werewolf form. Because if you get the wrong actress, like if, you know, you just put in some like, you know, attractive bonehead, you ruin that scene and you ruin the movie, honestly. Yeah. But like, there's something very believable about her performance and the way she was talking to him and the emotion on her face. She fucking nailed it, and it made me wonder why she wasn't. Maybe it's because she stayed in England or something, but why she wasn't like a much bigger actress than she was.
This kind of happened to Oliver Reed. He refused to leave England, and you know, I mean, he did his best, but I mean, he was loyal to England, and England's movie kind of died. It was dying in 81 even. It's kind of film industry was dying, and I think Landis said this was the last this was the only movie being filmed in England at the time, so that's pretty fucked up. Yeah. So as far as what does I say? Oh, that end scene with David Naughton and Jenny Agutter is so reminiscent of Cronenberg's The Fly. at the end. And
yeah.
It's genuinely the same actress, same power in there. And they told Gina Davis that it was going to be Goldblum in that shot, not a fucking fly. So she would perform better because she knew if it was a fucking prop, like she'd be like,
yeah.
So like, then that really works in that moment too. Like you have to have a strong actress and strong emotion for that shit to work.
Yeah, because she's talking to a scary Muppet basically, you know, and he sells it. Just fantastic acting.
Yeah, for sure. And Naughton's great in this. Naughton's one of those actors too that's like, man, you should have been huge. Like, you're great. I don't know what it was. Was it fucking hot dog? And that's it, or hamburger? What, I don't remember what it's. I think it's hot dog. The movie. It's not great. It's fine.
Yeah, he's very good. He's a nice, like, affable leading man. I think Griffin Dunne is exceptional in this.
Very funny.
It made me, and I haven't watched it yet, but I've never seen After Hours.
Me either.
And I was like, man, I should really watch that because he's really excellent in this. And I bet After Hours is great because it's him and Scorsese. So how could it be bad? So I need to make a point to watch that because I really liked him in this.
He's excellent in it for sure. In fact, all the acting's great. Another character I really like is the Doctor because he approaches it as a real human being. He's like, you know, this sounds stupid, but it doesn't sound right either. So he goes and checks it out. And I love his kind of like, it's almost like kind of mystery storyline of him trying to figure out. That's such a weird like side story, but it's so good. And he's such a good actor too. I love when he's arguing on the phone. His dialogue is funny too. He's just like, I survived Rommel, I can survive. And again, his interactions at the Slaughtered Lamb is also excellent. Like, yeah. I mean, all that stuff is good and amazing acted and just well written. And just the story moves so fast. This is such a fast paced movie. There is no downtime. Within the first 10 minutes, you're there. This movie, if it was made now, there'd be 25 minutes in America.
Well, that's the other thing, right? It's like it's literally 97 minutes long, I think, right? Like it's an hour 37, including the credits. And you know, this is just old man Mills talking here, but I kind of think that's about as long as most movies should be. And we've really gotten away from that. And I think most of that is just trying to please the foreign market who likes longer movies. But like, man, a nice, clean, trim 90-minute movie is a beautiful thing. And American Werewolf, the pacing is pretty perfect because you really only have three. I mean, there's the dream sequences and stuff, but really 3 moments of werewolf action, right? You have them on the moors getting attacked, the part in the middle where David turns for the first time and kills like 6 or 7 people, and then the scene at the end where he changes in the movie theater and goes on the rampage, which is just like that entire sequence is amazing.
The car stuff is so good in that.
Yeah, I mean that's John Landis for you, right? Like he loves to mess up cars.
But no, that whole car sequence is so well done, and the accidents, and it's just chaotic moments. Like you don't think you're going to get something that big in Pilladiggy Square, and you do. And I love that they bring back that asshole cop. He's a prick the whole fucking movie, and you're like, he's just like, yeah, let's kill this guy. And you know, Landis is like, we're gonna kill him, like just for the hell of it.
Is he the one who gets smashed in the cars?
Gets his head knocked off.
Oh, he's the head knocked off guy. Okay.
He's the detective throughout the whole movie, belittling that other guy who's kind of a halfwit.
Yeah.
Remember the guy drops the tools and he's like, I'll have a cup of coffee. And he's like I'd be like, if that guy would have given me a look, I'm like, I'll have a cup of coffee. Fuck you, old man. No, I'm at that point now where I'm just like.
That sequence is so precise. Like, and it had to have been storyboarded and had to have been planned so well because it is literally just like, each shot is like a mechanical cut to the perfect thing they need to cut to. Yeah. Like the guy who goes through the windshield of the bus and then out in the side and then the car hits him and then that car causes this, which makes this car slide and smash the guy against the other vehicle. Meanwhile, the most amazing full body werewolf puppet ever is just walking.
Trying to slash at people.
Yeah, you only see like glimpses of it full body walking, but I was like looking at the feet like, how did they do this? Like, how did they make the feet do that in 1981 where it's fully into the right sequence, picking up each foot and putting it back down and like growling and stuff. It's just so crazy well done.
It's great. And again, I do want to bring back up the point of the constant rotting people that are telling him to kill himself. I love that they bring that in there. That's a whole new touch. And he could have done something completely different. So in 1941, the Wolfman, they made all that shit up about the one who's loved, who kills and all that. And the
even
classic,
the full moon.
all that stuff. And Landis decides to embrace it. He gets rid of the silver bullet, but he embraces the supernatural aspects and all that kind of stuff. And there was something cursed about that town they were in. They say there's something wrong with this place, is what they say, the people. But I just really love that he embraced that. He embraced the kind of all that weird Wolfman mythology, because he could have avoided it and got his own thing, like Curse of the Werewolf from '66 with Oliver Reed, or any other kind of werewolf movie. Doesn't really follow that, but he definitely was paying homage to the Universal and Hammer films while doing his own thing.
Like you were saying, invents his own, right? Like the whole thing, like, the spirits of the people you killed will haunt you until the last werewolf is killed, right?
Yeah.
So is the implication that David is the last existing werewolf, and when they kill him, they sever the bloodline completely? Is that what they were saying?
I think so, at the very least, until that bloodline is dead. I'm glad they didn't really make a sequel right after this. I know they did in '96, and I have not seen that in years. I remember it being okay when I saw it, but I imagine the CGI was dog shit. Even the last time I watched it,
I thought some of the CGI held up better than I would have thought, but at the same time, it's less about the CGI and just the design of the werewolf is bad. Like they do weird, like the nose is weird. Like I'm just not crazy about the look of that, and that movie goes weird, dumb places that, I don't know. It doesn't even feel like a sequel. What I'd rather see is a prequel, a period set prequel set in like the 70s of like that werewolf who was in the slaughtered lamb that they were, protecting and hiding from and all this stuff. Like whose brother was that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what was, because there's probably his family in that town. They probably knew who he was. Like, that would be more interesting to me. But at the same time, like, why mess with one of the best werewolf movies ever made?
We'll be completely fine without knowing that stuff. That's kind of half the fun, and just guessing. Like I assume it was just kind of like a Hammer movie or something like that throughout the history. You know what I mean? Of somebody blocking the werewolf. Although Hammer only ever made the one werewolf movie, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, made like 7 Frankensteins, 9 Draculas,
How
20
many Draculas,
other vampires, 9 Draculas, and like 7 other vampire movies, 10 other vampire movies, but they only made one werewolf movie.
Only one Mummy movie too, right? There's only
4 Mummy movies.
There's 4 of them? I only knew about the one.
The 4th one is more in the lines of the actual Bram Stoker novel, which is the strange novel Jewel of the. And then there's one Phantom movie. There's a couple Dr. Jekyll stories, and then there's some kind of a Dorian Gray story. I mean, I love a big Hammer fan, so. But yeah, and there's a Gorgon. There's all sorts of weird kind of monster one-offs, zombie movie, but only one werewolf, which is kind of a little heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, 81 is infamous for the werewolf, right? Besides this, we have Joe Dante's The Howling. We know the story with, Rick Baker promised Landis he'd make the werewolf movie with him, and he was already working on The Howling, and he called him, and he got him out there, and he gave Joe Dante Rob Bottin. And hell, The Howling has great special effects, too. Yeah.
I made a video that has long been obliterated from YouTube a long time ago about my top transformation sequences, and at the time I included The Howling, and I can't remember if I didn't include American Werewolf or if I just put The Howling above American Werewolf, and I honestly think I still feel that way. Like I think I like The Howling transformation more, because in HD some of the American Werewolf stuff, I think I'm treading lightly because I know people get mad about this, but I think
rubbery.
Some of it doesn't really hold up. It's more of wiggly. Like when he's on the ground and it's like the big long werewolf legs and they're just wiggling, and the hands and his real thumb is sticking out, but then the shots of the face are great, and when he's fully transformed he looks amazing. And the feet I thought were amazing, like the feet that like stretch out. I thought
they look great.
And the hair like growing in looked awesome. But yeah, there's little moments in there where I was like, I don't know if this holds up anymore.
But the Howling is shot darker. The American Werewolf in London is I'd say more
lit room.
Expensive movie too. So I feel like the polished look, it doesn't leave anything in the dark. And the Howling is a dark movie. Even both of them on 4K I watched. The Howling's a darker movie. The Werewolf transformation is in the dark. It's dirty. it just fits the setting of the movie more. And The Howling's a bizarre film in general to me. It's just
Yeah.
it's just an oddball film in terms of werewolf movie too. It's nothing quite like The Howling, to be
It's
honest.
even strange just as a movie in Joe Dante's filmography. It like you can feel his touch, but at the same time, it feels different from a lot of his other stuff.
A little sleazier on Dante.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I don't associate sleaze with Dante.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it, but like I think if they, and maybe this was the point, maybe Landis was like, no, we're showing this transformation in bright light. It's, you know, it's going to be, we never get to see this, so let's make the best transformation ever. We're going to put lights right on it, which I understand that thought process. But at the same time, I'm like, if David had just knocked over a lamp when he fell down the first time and then the rest of it was backlit, the entire sequence would look better than it does. Because when his name's Eddie Quist, right, in The Howling, the Robert Picardo werewolf. Yeah, when he transforms, it's like in the dark with an edge light and with like the light of like blinds, like from an old film noir movie on him. So like, you know, your imagination is filling in the dark parts and it makes everything look that much better. But at the same time, it's also Rob Bottin, who just like was amazing.
Yeah, amazing too. I still think I prefer, as a whole, I put American Werewolf above The Howling by a lot.
It's a much better movie. Yeah.
I know a lot of people might get mad at that, but rewatching The Howling, it's a good movie. And on paper, I should go The Howling because it's riddled with character actors from Kevin McCarthy to Slim Pickens, Dick Miller. But American Werewolf is just a better paced, a better movie, more interesting, more sense. It's just better in general by a lot.
Yeah, I think even people who don't love horror movies could. Hi, kitty cat. I think people who don't like love horror movies could watch American Werewolf and understand that it's a great movie. Even my wife kind of came in the room while I was watching it, and she was doing something else and was kind of half paying attention to it, and it was right at the ending, so it was everything from the porno theater all the way to the credits. And when it ended, Erica just kind of turned to me and she's like, "That's some ending, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like it's got to." When that movie ends, it fucking ends, man. That whole last sequence, and she hadn't even seen what came before it, and she was like, "Wow, that was something else."
A lot of people bite it in the end. It's just chaos. 2 people in the theater, and then the cop in his head, and then like car accident. At least 6 or 7 get messed up. It's just insane.
That body, I think maybe it's the first time I've watched it in HD, or maybe, and the person he's gnawing on in the theater, like that is gross. Like their guts are like out and everything. Like it was so gnarly. And I think when I watched it before, it just looked like a red mess. But now when I could really see it, I was like, ugh, that is nasty.
Some of the stuff's pretty gnarly. In terms of werewolf movies, I mean, I don't think it's your favorite.
Oh man. See, now I'm just like blanking on werewolf movies in general.
I mean, you got Silver Bullet, you got Dog Soldiers, you got The Howling.
Yeah,
Wolfman.
I like all of those. It's probably my favorite. I'm trying to think. It's not my favorite werewolf in a movie, but it's probably my favorite werewolf movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
There aren't that many good ones, first of all, if you really boil it down. Like, there's a lot of really bad ones. And even I'm not crazy about the Universal Wolfman, to be honest. I like the Wolfman better in the other Universal movies than in his own movie. So yeah, I mean, there's great werewolf. I'm just trying to think of other werewolf movies that I love. Yeah, Howling, or not the Howling. American Werewolf that's probably number 1. I can't really think of a better one.
I mean, as far as werewolf designs, I've always liked the bipedal werewolf, and I've always been a big fan of the Wolfman in general, how he looks. And I do like the Dog Soldiers Howling style werewolf. But I'm also when I rewatched Dog Soldiers, I just did not have the affinity for that movie as I remembered. I thought it was just too sloppily edited. Editing was terrible.
I still love that movie, but I had a similar. I was like, this is way rougher than I remember the last time I watched it. Yeah. I think it also has not benefited from like being put on Blu-ray and stuff. Like I think
agree.
it looked better on. I probably watched it for the first time on VHS or DVD, so it probably looked a little better back then. I still like it. It's probably that and The Descent are probably the 2 best movies that guy made, I would say.
Descent's an excellent movie, though. That one holds up very well, if not
sure
better now than it was then. Even really, it's a great film.
I think my 2 favorite like werewolves in movies is probably I really like the the Wolfman from Monster Squad, even though
I was going to say, I love him too.
I love that design. I love the design of all the monsters in that. And then I really like the Werewolf in Bad Moon, and I like that movie, but that movie is just like it's just like a gory B movie. It's a good time. It's fun to watch. But I really love the werewolf suit in that one. Not the transformation, but the suit.
They cut that. The director's cut.
That's what I heard.
It just cuts it. It's the same. You can watch both versions, but the director's cut, it just cuts it short. It cuts out the CGI, and it's just like that's fine. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the director probably was never happy with it. It's probably out of his hands at that point, at that certain time, Who knows? Who cares?
Ooh, it's bad.
They got to fix it. So
it was bad at the time.
Yeah, I remember me and my brother stayed up, watched Bad Moon, and then we were scared of it, and it was way too late. We were like, we actually scared us back then. It's 96? That's a good one. Mm-hmm. 96 is a weird year.
Yeah.
Did American Werewolf in Paris come out in 96 as well?
Probably around there, 96 or 97, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that the B picture is much better than the A picture on that deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Is American Werewolf in Paris is it an A picture? I don't fucking know.
I think at the time it was. It has what's funny about all the bad special effects in it is they had to have been expensive at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Doing that much CGI and they come out the gate so hot. There's that goofy scene where they bungee jump off the Eiffel Tower and it's all CGI, and I don't know. That movie's very, very strange flick, and doesn't even connect in any way to this one. So they just use the same lore, kind of.
Silly. So if we're looking at Desperate Men, the guy who plays not the monster itself, but where do you put Naughton's performance as a desperate man?
I'm trying to think of other great Desperate Man performances.
I mean,
can you say he's better than Dustin Hoffman in Marathon Man? You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean as a werewolf.
Oh, as a werewolf?
As a human.
I don't know. This is just my bias coming back in, but I really love John Grise in Monster Squad.
Me too. He's gonna kill your son.
Strung out and doesn't want it, and I like that when the werewolf takes over, it takes over his personality, becomes psycho. I don't know. He's just a good character actor.
You definitely have to come back for 87 for Monster Squad.
I love Monster Squad. I'll throw something out there real quick. I just read a werewolf book it's called Wolf Hunt, and there's 3 of them by this author named Jeff Strand, who also wrote a book called Dweller, which is what got me into his work. So if you're looking for good monster novels, Jeff Strand's work is pretty phenomenal, and Dweller is I'd have to read it again to be sure, but it might be one of my favorite books ever, man. It made me cry. It's about a monster. But then Wolf Hunt is just about 2 low-level criminal guys who get hired to transport this guy from one place to another. Turns out that guy's a werewolf. He gets loose, and their hearts are too good. They can't stand the fact that they're responsible for letting this werewolf loose, so now they're hunting him. And it's just super simple, super fun, super stripped down monster book. But I would recommend it if you like werewolf stuff and monster stuff.
That's cool. I'm trying to think of a couple more werewolf films this year. Like I said, I should bring up back to this 9081. We have The Howling and American Werewolf. We have Wolfen, which is wolf-oriented, lycanthropy, or whatever you want to call it, which is a good movie. As a kid, I didn't like it because it was just a little too adult, I think, for me. But it holds up. It's pretty good.
I remember that coming on as a kid, and I'd watch it waiting for the werewolves to show up, and I'm just this is just weird. There's a lot of naked guys in it. I don't know about this movie. But if I watched it now, I'd probably have a different appreciation for it.
No, it's good. The werewolves focus, the wolves are a group of Native American shapeshifters, and they're targeting certain people that are trying to develop this area. I mean, probably 81, probably ahead of its time. I mean, in a lot of ways. But I mean, that's been going on forever. It's just a different area that they're gentrifying in time. It's what happens. Then we also have Full Moon High, the best Larry Cohen movie. I'm just kidding. It's essentially his take on I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And it's a silly comedy with Alan Arkin and his son. I can't remember his son's name, Adam. And he plays the main character, and he's bit by a werewolf. His dad is Ed McMahon. It is a stupid, silly movie. The humor is outdated. A lot of
Teen Wolf a remake of this?
I don't know. Not really. But I mean, it has some similarity. But this is just a goofy 81 comedy with a lot of outdated gay humor and shit.
Oh, of course, yeah.
is considered garbage by most people, but when I watched it, I expected garbage, and I had a couple laughs with it. I was fine with it. Not even that bad. Entertaining.
Yeah.
We also have Night of the Werewolf, Paul Naschy movie.
Oh, you know what? I recently started getting into Naschy's stuff.
He's great. He's great.
I couldn't even tell you which ones I watched because they were basically the same movie. But I watched a couple of them. Yeah, it was like, I think one was like Werewolf meets Vampire Woman or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm going to sound like a dummy talking about these movies because I watched them over Halloween, and I watched so many horror movies at Halloween, they all mixed together. But I watched 2 or 3 of his movies, and I kind of liked them. They're pretty fun.
I actually think this one is I think he remade Werewolf Woman. This one might be the one. I think he faces off against a vampire woman in it. I'm going to rewatch it because I enjoyed it so much.
Dude, I probably watched this one and then watched the remake of it. I bet is what happened.
Yeah, this one's really good. I mean, there's a lot of action in it. It's very gothic, and Naschy's got like an outdated sense. Like he goes for movies that like they were making in the 60s and 70s, but he's doing them in the 80s, but with just a lot of fun effects. I just think that Night of the Werewolf is a lot of fun and just kind of a different flavor of werewolf movie.
Yeah, I think I watched that one and liked it.
And then
I like both the ones I watched.
You got another kind of really goofy movie called National Mummy, which is about a naked mummy woman walking around with her breasts hanging out. But
that sounds like a good movie.
And there's a werewolf in it, and it's really goofy, and it's by Jose Larraz, who typically didn't do comedy. His movies are like Vampires, the 70s lesbian vampire film, and Symptoms, and all sorts of good films. But he made this movie called National Mummy, which I was like, and it has a werewolf in it, and I was like, this is the dumbest damn thing ever. I laughed a lot, so I mean, it's probably not going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
But and then the last I would mention is Wolf Hour, which is more of a psychological kind of horror film where this guy is like studying these wolves, and there's this woman who's infatuated with the wolves, and he starts to kind of get in this relationship with her, and you're like, is she a werewolf? Is she not? And the wife is like, what the fuck is going on? I don't like this. It's really weird. It's really good though, and really kind of fucked up. So I mean, a lot of werewolf shit going on in '81. These are all around all around the world.
Can you imagine if we had like, I don't know, movies are so different now. I guess our version of that now is just that like 6 superhero movies come out every year, right? Like,
but the thing is, like, I don't think anybody knew. Like, there's no way National Mummy got a release here, and Night of the Werewolf probably didn't get a release until Vigisper Shells until the mid '80s.
That's true.
Right?
Like, it's probably not like the slasher thing. Like, this was probably more accidental. They weren't trying to cash in on anything. It's just a bunch of people thought at the same time they should make a werewolf movie. Yeah,
just a lot of lycanthrope stuff going on, and honestly, it's so weird that the year of the werewolf is also the year of the slasher. Who would think they would go together? Like back in the early '80s, you could have such a wide plethora of movies and not have the same shit. What happened in the late '90s, it was all the same crap, typically. 2 or 3 different genres, and that's it. And like when we get to when I covered 1980, you just realized how much different countries were contributing, and as it went on, they started dropping out more and more. It kind of got sad, you know, because Italy was still going pretty strong in the early '80s. You have Fulci made 3 movies in 1981 alone.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a director and making 3 decent movies in '81 in 1 year?
No. I've probably made 3 bad movies in a year, but I don't think I can make 3 decent ones.
I mean, The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, and The Black Cat, they're all good films.
Yeah, that's wild. It kind of bums me out that we don't have that anymore. You know, like now it's just, you know, it's mostly United States. We get a few movies out of China and the UK and then Bollywood, right? But like there's not really, you don't see a lot of Italian movies, especially not Italian genre movies coming out. You know, I wish that cinema would get that big again, you know?
Yeah, no UK, not really. There's a couple, no Italy. Italy was killed by the TV market, and Australia used to put out movies too. There's movies coming out from Australia this time. It doesn't, they still are, but they're not very good. Like a lot of those countries' movies are not. Hong Kong is dead. In Hong Kong, in the mid to, they were making movies in the 70s, 80s, 90s and stuff, and their output was pretty big. And their movies were completely insane.
The Hong Kong
different story there.
They still make a lot of movies, but they just are hampered by all the censorship. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the charm of the Hong Kong movies, is that anything goes, you know?
They were insane, yeah.
They were the craziest shit.
Even if they weren't good, they were crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, like and stuff like that. So it's just weird how much the film market's changed from now from 1980, 81, the stuff that got released. It's sad. And just watching them all die, and eventually America will die too. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
we're working on it.
Yeah.
Now China makes all the movies. Everything's made for China, all censored.
I think that's diminishing now. I haven't seen as many Chinese co-productions lately because I think they aren't making as much money.
Good. I don't want to watch 12-hour superhero movies anymore.
Well, the last one I saw was The Meg 2, which was... I came out of that movie. I saw it in theater, and I came out and I was like, do I even like movies anymore?
Really?
I think The Meg 2 maybe made me hate movies.
That bad?
It's pretty bad, yeah. And I kind of liked the first one. The first one was okay. That second one, I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's not a movie.
We were talking about it's content, Dustin's content.
Yeah.
We were talking about the runtime earlier, and it drives me crazy about the fucking runtimes. People are like it's a brisk or it's a tight one. It's a tight 100 minutes. It's like, bro, 80 minutes is tight. 90 minutes is correct. 80 minutes is tight. Don't fucking be trying to sell me on a 100-minute movie being tight. It could be tight. Any length the movie can be tight, but that's not typical, right?
Yeah. There's been a couple 90-minuters sneaking in though. Like, did you see Talk to Me? I think that was about 90 minutes. That's a great movie, by the way. Trying to think what else. There was something else I saw recently where I was like, you know what? I'm shocked that this was 90 minutes, but I'm glad. But I think they're coming back around. I think they're realizing that, it's smart to make at least in the world of like mid to low budget, it's smart to make them a little shorter.
Well, I mean, I just hope the one thing that dies out is the anthologies that aren't made by the same group of filmmaker anthologies. Like, bro, they're not cohesive. It's like gluing together fucking the bottom of the sink. Like all the shit you find at the bottom of the sink. Like, I got lasagna here. You got fucking taco salad. Let's glue these together. Hey, they all are food. Kinda. Like,
I think I think for some people, especially in the like micro budget world, I think it works as sort of a sampler kind of thing, but when you're just trying to watch a cohesive movie, because a lot of them are like, Halloween anthologies. And I'm just like, have it made by the same guy. Like, there's a reason Trick or Treat is so good and cohesive and has like a unified visual style. Yeah. Like one director, if you get like 5 of your director friends, one of them might be sucky, one of them might be great, and then this great movie is sitting next to this sucky one, and nothing looks right. And we're saying this as people who did this exact thing in 2016, but
the thing is, at least we all were on the same sets. It was actually the same
true.
people, the same actors.
Fair. That's true.
A lot of these movies are, hey, I made this short 20 years ago. Can I throw it in your anthology? Yeah, and then it's in 6 different anthologies, and it's like, fuck off, man.
I mean, the cynical part of me says it's an easy way for a producer to put together something to release. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but I don't even know. Do these movies make money? Does anything make money anymore?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm not making.
I don't. I get like drip-fed royalty checks every, like twice a year. It's like, oh, look, a royalty check for the 25 movies I made.
Here's your $2. Fucking.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it Better Off Dead? Here's your $2. No, that's Dirty Work. Here's your $2.
Dirty Work, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's your $2. Yeah.
It's like, I just realized I'm not even Here's your $2. Cuts it right off. Oh, I love that movie. Anything else to say about American Werewolf in London? Except
no, I don't think so. I was just, I was sort of, it was never a movie that was like a favorite of mine, really. I always liked it. But watching it this time as like a grown-ass man and kind of removed from watching horror constantly, because I really only watch horror, once a year now for the most part, unless something comes out that I really want to see. I was just like, oh no, this is just a really good movie. Like, even if not even just a good horror movie, like it's just like a good, well-made, well-written, well-constructed film. And I appreciate when I get to watch those and recognize that.
For sure. I mean, Landis is a very capable director. I mean, he was on a good roll, right? Animal House, Blues Brothers, and then we have, of course, American Werewolf, and then, unfortunately, The Twilight Zone, which his segment was turning out to be a pretty good one. It's not the worst in that short, in that anthology. And then, of course, I mean, he went on to do a bunch of other comedies, Coming to America, Trading Places. He has a couple more horror films. Burke and Hare has horror-oriented stuff in there, which is a fun film. I mean, he's a good director. Obviously, he's going to make good films. And it's unfortunate that his career was kind of stopped there, and what happened was terrible. But, I mean, American Werewolf in London, I still think it's probably his best film. I think it's his best movie, for me at least. My personal favorite.
I'm a Blues Brothers guy, but I do love American Werewolf now. Like, it's a good movie, but I'd be hard pressed to say I like it more than the Blues Brothers, because Blues Brothers is just like, that's one of my movies, man.
It's funny. I wish they made comedies like that, you know?
Yeah.
Comedies that are actual movies. They're not just like 4 or 5 buddies. Hey, I got my 6 or 7 friends to improv in a room about farts and dicks for 2 hours, a 12-hour thing, and just cut it down to an hour and a half. It's like, this isn't a fucking movie, guys. It's not. Those movies had stories, and they weren't always laugh out loud funny, but they grew on you to the point where you would quote them to someone else, and you'd both laugh hysterically. And then when you go back to watch the movies, they're funnier every single time you see it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we just mentioned Dirty Work. Dirty Work is not like a well-constructed, well-shot film. Like, it looks very cheap, but it's funny as hell. Like, you know, it just, and memorable. The funniness is from the writing. It wasn't people riffing. I mean, there's probably some riffing in the movie, but it is just a funny script. I think that's what happened, man. I think funny scripts don't get written anymore. Or if they do, they get changed so much that they're no longer funny by the time they're a movie.
I'm not so sure scripts are written. I don't think there's a story anymore. Like Ghostbusters is funny, and they leave room for improv, and the improv they leave is good, but the story is first. There's a fucking story that they have to follow. They can't just change it that much because it's a complicated fucking story. But like, if you think when they leave room for improv, it's wonderful. Like, hey, cockroaches, man, bite your head off. That whole thing is all improv. That guy play, you know what I mean? Like, it's just good stuff like that. Like, they leave room for him. They're real scripts, I think. I don't fucking feel like they have scripts. They have stories. They have something to do.
It was that group of guys, right? Like, it was, you know, it was Aykroyd and Ramis and Landis, and it was just that group of guys who, you know, did all those movies, The Stripes and Groundhog Day, and all the super memorable comedies through the 80s and 90s, like that. That class of writer and actor just doesn't really exist so much anymore. I think things changed when Anchorman came out and 40-Year-Old Virgin came out. And I'm not dissing those movies. I really like those movies. But I think it's kind of like when, you know, Scream came out, and Scream was pretty good, but then everything that copied Scream was a pile of shit. And so everything that has tried to copy that era of like improvisational comedy movies, they're just bad copies of the original. They're just not as good.
Exactly. And that's what people thought about The Burning.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't like
they
that.
Were wrong.
They were wrong about The Burning. But that's kind of it. We should mention, I forgot I mentioned Elmer Bernstein, of course, did the score on American Werewolf. And he Landis, again, kind of definitely went and got Elmer Bernstein because he knew him from a long time ago and used him. And he was making like military style scores. And when he brought him in, he got him used to changed him all the comedy scores. And that guy was doing comedy work ever since. So that is an interesting person to do the score in American Werewolf in London too. So, I mean, there's just so many talented people involved with this movie. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, I feel like the bar used to be higher, you know?
I do too. That's why when people are like, you're too hard on new movies, I'm like, am I? I'm not trying to be a dick. I can't even watch them sometimes. I can't even get through trailers sometimes. And I like a lot of new movies. I'll watch them. Yeah. But sometimes I can't even get through the trailer. Like that Steamboat Willie, somebody sent me that trailer. I couldn't even finish the trailer.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be a dick.
The horror movie Mickey Mouse things that are coming out now.
Everything is so calloused.
Is that the most clever thing we can do? Like, I was pissed off because I love Winnie the Pooh, and when Winnie the Pooh, like, I love the books, I love the old cartoon. When Winnie the Pooh came out and it was in the public domain, and the first thing anyone did with it was like, they bought a generic, I shouldn't say generic because I don't want to diss the guys who make the silicone mask, but that silicone mask in the Winnie the Pooh movie is an off-the-shelf mask that they bought, and they put it on a guy and made a cheap slasher movie, and everyone ironically made it a success, even though it stinks. And then
didn't see it.
We're going to do the same thing with Mickey Mouse. The most clever thing we can do with Mickey Mouse, now that we can use him, is make him a slasher and like draw dicks on him on Instagram. That's the most clever fucking thing we can come up with to do with him. Just bums me out. We're just two old men yelling at the sky.
We're dying. Everything is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Cynical. Everybody's so fucking cynical. And all the independent movies that used to get made and everybody's so excited to make their art and do things now, they've turned into the Hollywood version of it, and they're all cynical and they just want to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
Everything is Amityville, and I just want to fucking die. Amityville Mickey Mouse. Amityville Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Everything, man. It's just all the same shit. Like, I don't care anymore. That's why I don't I know I shouldn't say this. This is probably terrible. I don't want to watch independent movies anymore. I'm sorry. I don't want to do it. Unless you're my friend or I know you. I've seen a bunch of your movies and I know your shit's good. I'm not watching it. I've taken enough fucking chances, and I've seen some great ones.
Independent, you mean like micro budgeted, right? You don't mean like independent. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's hard to watch it's just the mid-budget movie died, right? It's been dead. And mid-budget used to be where a lot of great movies lived, but now all we have is big movies and really little movies. And here's the thing, let's be real though because I don't want to shit on micro-budget filmmakers, but what has happened is that for them to survive, they have to be cynical, because now their movies have to make money. Yeah. And if they don't get to keep making movies. Like, I've played this game. I played that game for a decade, right? I know how it goes. And so they're doing what they can to survive, and unfortunately the work suffers for it. It's just the way it is. And it sucks, but it's just the way it is.
So are we going to announce we're making Amityville Pooh Bear versus Amityville Steamboat Willie?
Amityville 100 Acre Wood.
What the fuck is that?
That's where Winnie the Pooh lives.
Oh,
100 Acre Wood.
See
it's
what
the
happens
100 Acre Wood, and then that fucking house is just sitting in there.
And that boat, it somehow gets on there. What happens? How's that boat crash in there?
I don't know. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to do like Mickey Mouse versus Winnie the Pooh, because you could make that movie now, Mickey versus Winnie.
Mickey versus Winnie. Winner takes all.
Who else is in the public domain is Felix the Cat. Although the version of him that's in the public domain, no one would recognize as Felix the Cat, because it's like the first one. And he's all like stretched out and weird looking. He's not like the round guy that everybody knows.
I would just call the movie Evil Stretched Out Felix the Cat.
There you go. I got to rant about this real quick, and then I can be done with it. But when a character goes in the public domain, the first thing anybody does is they parody it. They're like, we can finally make jokes about it. I'm like, you always could do that. You were always legally allowed to do that. What you're allowed to do now is actually use them in the context that they're meant to be used. It's the opposite of parody. Like, you could take the first Winnie the Pooh book and make your own full-fledged adaptation of it, and no one could stop you, and you can make money off of it. But that's not what anybody does. They make fucking horror movies and shit out of it. Same thing with Mickey. You could take Steamboat Willie, make your own Mickey Mouse movie, or whatever you want to do. Throw him in with other characters. Throw Mickey and Winnie the Pooh together. Like, do whatever you want. Mickey Mouse and fucking Sherlock Holmes. There's so many creative things you could do with it. You could do Mickey Mouse versus Cthulhu. You could do anything you wanted. And
Mickey Mouse and the Time Machine, H.G. Wells.
Sure. Like, you could do all these wonderful things, and what people choose to do is it's just too bad, because there's so much more interesting territory to cover. And I'll stop bitching about it, but it bothers me.
We just had this old man conversation. I just had it with art editor and Troy Howarth, and we were talking about, you have the world at your fingertips of movie knowledge, and you can find any movie you've ever wanted to see. You can make subtitles for any movie you've ever wanted to see. But what are you doing? You're watching the shit that's streaming. You're not looking for anything different, and then you're just covering everything that everybody's in a fucking vacuum, and you're just everything's the same. You have all the choices. Everything's at your fingertips. That's what happened. They gave us everything, and we just take what they give us still. They put it in front of our face, and we eat that. Like, that's like a buffet of the world behind you, but they keep putting shrimp cocktail in your face. You don't want shrimp. You're tired of shrimp, but you keep eating the fucking shrimp because it's right here.
Yeah, it's true. But I can't blame people, because everyone's so fucking tired, man. Everyone's tired and sad. So, like, nobody wants, even though all that's available to them, most people are too tired to go hunting for it. They're just like, oh, I'm just going to watch fucking the Squid game show. You know, like, I'm just going to watch, Housewives of wherever.
And I don't want to sound like a dickhead, but people come to me and they're like, oh, you watch The Mandalorian or you watch Squid Game. I'm like, I've seen things like Squid Game. I watched they showed me the first episode. I was like, oh, it's pretty good. I mean, I have seen South Korean horror films. I do know what they are. Yeah. I've been watching them for 20 years. I know what's going on. And yes, it's cool. It's good stuff, but I'm familiar with it. It's not new to me. I know it sounds like I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm not going to get excited for that. Like, as like you guys would, you know what I mean? Like, me and you most of us are well-versed in watching this shit. So I'm like, I'm happy you're happy. but I'm not going to
Yeah.
dedicate my time to television that's on Netflix.
Yeah, we're in a different place with what we're watching.
I'm busy watching Brazilian fucking exploitation horror porn right now, right, man? That's very important. Somebody's got to watch it. I made the subtitles. I got to watch it. Is it good?
Somebody's got to watch it.
Is it hurting my ability to function as a human being? Probably. Can I carry on a conversation with people? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. I watch the dumbest shit, especially like. I mean, I've just shifted into like anime. Like I watch so much anime, and so many old Japanese superhero shows like that. It's permanently affecting my brain, and so I can't judge anybody for watching whatever they want to watch, because I just watched 12 episodes of Cat Planet Cuties in 2 days. So like I'm not gonna make fun of anybody for watching whatever.
Yeah,
they
no
wanna
shit.
watch.
I just told you I literally was watching exploitation Brazilian horror porn from 1981. So, I don't know if they're
Hey, at
horror
least it's
porn,
from
but
81.
everybody's
Oh, hey,
having
guess
sex
what?
in it.
Us talking about Mickey Mouse is not so off topic, because Mickey Mouse is in an American Werewolf in London.
He is, and they
Yeah.
cut to him for a second.
Yeah, they
and
cut
show
to him during the transformation sequence. Yeah,
It's a cute little
I don't
scene.
know why, but
I mean, just kind of show you that he's transforming into some sort of beast, a man beast. Nothing more scary than Mickey Mouse.
yeah. If he was real, he'd be upsetting. Can you imagine real Mickey Mouse walking in?
How tall is he?
I don't know. He's probably like 3.5 feet tall.
Do they keep
Covered
by
in
his toddler
fur.
clothes?
Got those weird gloves on. Those gloves are probably dirty. They're probably filthy because
Oh yeah,
how often
he's
does
a
he clean
rat.
those?
Does he crawl on all fours, or is he?
I think he walks. It's just Mickey Mouse, but he's real. Imagine that. It's terrifying.
Did you notice that Mickey Mouse has those like on buttons in the back, so he can take a shit? He can unbutton the 4. Does he have the 4 buttons in the back, so he can just like no overall? So he's like, oh, I gotta take a shit, just unbuttons them because he's working
never
on a
noticed
steamboat.
that.
He's Steamboat
Yeah.
Willie, so the motherfucker's probably like, I ain't got time to take these fucking pants off. Just unbutton and take a dump and get back to fucking shoveling coal.
Sometimes you gotta drop a Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, I'm
You know?
dressed like fucking Albert Fish over here in fucking overalls. Fucking, I don't want Mickey in this house. Mickey's not coming over.
Yeah. Get him out of
Goofy
here.
can stay the fuck out too. I
I
deal
don't know, I
with
think
enough
Goofy-
goofs at work.
Goofy could hang, I think. Goofy
Goofy could hang. All right, I think we've had enough of
Okay.
completely off-topic conversation here about
Sure,
Mickey
yeah.
Mouse. Thanks for coming on, man. Do you have anything to plug? Anything upcoming? Anything like that?
No, just what I said before. Like, I don't listen. I got no horse in this race, or however the saying goes. But like, check out some Jeff Strand books, because I recently found him as an author. There are probably people watching this being like, no, duh, he's been around forever. But I just found his stuff. I talked to him a little bit one day. He's a super nice guy, and his books are dope. So that's all. And I just thought of it because I just read his werewolf book, and so if you're in a werewolf mood, Wolf Hunt, there's 3 of them, Wolf Hunt trilogy. I would check those out. I don't have anything to plug of my own really at this moment, but that's it.
All right, thanks for doing it.
Yeah, of course.
I love you, David.
Dang dang dang, ding it on ding blue moon, 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 blue moon. Dip 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 moon, 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 blue moon. Dip 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 moon, moon, blue moon. Dip 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 bomb 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 bomb. Dang dang dang, ding it on ding blue moon, moon, moon.
You saw me standing alone without a dream in my heart, without a love of my
Dang dang dang, ding it on ding blue moon.